Welcome, everybody. This is the interview live podcast that I'm doing now with some special guests, and we've got lots of guys planned for the show. But as of right now, I've got an old friend, somebody that has basically taught me how to ride, and he is the 82 MX and Supercross champion. I got the one and only Donnie HOLESHOT Hansen. What's up, Donnie?
Well, Johnny, good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I mean, you look better than ever. Even all grainy, you look good, my friend. You look good.
All grainy.
No, like all grainy because the resolution is up there. I need to come over to your house and tell you and Becky how to like install fiber optic, so you have like the best gigabit speed nowadays.
All right. Well, come on over. How's Arizona?
Well, I'm honestly, I'm no longer in Arizona. I'm back in Colorado. We've moved back. Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm honestly closer to you than I have been for a while, but I don't ride as often as I used to now. So, mainly I kind of just do tutorials on how other people should ride and kind of break down the pros. Hey, look, HD resolution. There we go. There's Donnie. So, Donnie, I wanted to ask, how did you get started in motocross and supercross? Like, what year was it when you first started riding?
What year? As a kid, I mean, first riding a mini bike, I was like 7 years old. That I got involved with, with the family and my dad that used to compete. He used to race during his time in like the '60s, or yeah, in the '60s. he his form of racing was TTs and scrambles. So that's what I started off doing for a couple years as a youngster, teenager.
And Donnie, I know the rules have changed a bunch since you retired. How did you get your pro license, or was it something where you're like, hey, I want to turn pro, here's how I do it? I mean,
I rode AMA qualifiers where you gained, you gain points to be able to ride a pro race. But as an amateur, as I started to get a little better, get in the local experts or pro class, that's what I did is, go around and race these qualifiers to get some points to be able to race regular race. So I raced the LA Coliseum for the first time in like 1979.
wow.
My first pro race, where I ended up finishing seventh in the main event. First privateer when I was riding on the Can-Ams as a support rider.
Dang. So when was the year you got your first factory ride? Did you approach them or did they approach you?
They approached me between racing in Southern California and doing well. And then my first Supercross, as I mentioned, where I finished seventh. Can-Am called me up first, and they offered me a ride. And it's kind of handshake deal over the phone until we got together and signed a contract. Well, another week or two goes by, and Honda called and did the same thing. And as it turned out, we went to Honda.
Wow. Could you be transparent on like what was a sign-on bonus for riding for factory Honda in 79, 80?
Yeah, it wasn't much. I mean, it was just 20 grand to sign. And then the bonuses, whatever they were, but nothing like these days. But yeah, so after my first year with Honda, they saw some potential in me, so they signed me for another 2 years.
And
And
was that just on 125s or was that for 250s?
250s. I never rode 125s.
Huh. What was the reason for that?
I don't know. I mean, I started off on the as an amateur. I got a ride from eventually a very good friend that was in construction that lived in Southern California near us, and he wanted to back someone in the sport of motocross. So a mutual friend of ours who owned a shop came up to me and goes, "Hey, Donnie, what do you think of motocross? You want to try it? We got this guy that's interested in backing somebody." And I said, "Sure." Because my dad, he didn't have no money, and I was just, I was real young. I was, what was I? I don't know, 15 or 16 at the time. So I borrowed a 250 and raced one of the Southern California tracks, and as a junior, and I won. So this individual, he was interested and taking me under his wing and taking me racing. And I said, "Sure, let's do it. Let's try it." So that's where it's kind of started. I went from riding scrambles for a couple of years, and I was getting pretty good at that. I got into the amateur race, just 37, racing as an amateur. And when I went to motocross and started off in the junior class, and in 6 months, I turned expert or pro as a local. And this individual, his name was Ron Smith, and he became a very good friend of mine and the family. But he had taken me racing, and he liked the Makos. Makos in '74, when I started, were the bikes. So we went racing and got to eventually the expert or local pros and started doing pretty good. And he knew that the Japanese is where the money is. That's where you want to end up in Japanese. The Germans didn't have a whole lot of money. So he would go buy a new Yamaha, new 250 Yamaha, and I would try it. I'd ride it around his ranch. I said, "No, I don't like this. I want my Mako back." So I think we did that for a couple of years until I said, "Oh, this thing works pretty good. The monoshock, this thing works pretty good." So, anyways, Yamaha, we got involved with Yamaha, and Yamaha supported me. Well, as time went on, and I'm riding the pro class, local pros. I was just a number because there's so many, so many of those Yamaha riders that was getting support. Well, I was having issues with things like the frames cracking, breaking, and I couldn't get enough support. Well, meantime, Can-Am calls me and asked me if I want to ride support Can-Am. So, long story short, we went Can-Am because it's a smaller team, and I get more support. So that's how we ended up on Can-Am. And anyways, racing locally, had the Bombardier motors, and very good motors, real good motors, real strong production bikes. And we did get on those things.
Sorry, Donnie, you cut in and out just a little bit there. Could you tell me from going from privateer to factory, how much better those bikes were? Like, was it a works class back in the 80s where pretty much anything goes, whatever crazy parts or pieces they wanted, they could put on the motorcycles? Or was the production rule still in effect where a stock bike was somewhat competitive?
No, production bikes weren't competitive enough. The works bikes were the ultimate machine that was set up with the best parts, but it was fit for you. You know, we got it. The factory would do whatever they had to for the individual within reason. Yeah, the factory bikes were the Mercedes Benz of the bikes.
Should we go back to those rules, do you think? As what motocross and supercross is doing now, where things are a little bit more locked down, where they have the homologation rule where it's got to be on the lot and, you know, for sale for like 500 units or something. And there's certain things that they cannot do on the motorcycles.
Yeah, I don't know. I think what they have right now, it's probably a little close. It's better for the privateers. They have more of a chance where, you know, when the guys, when the factory bikes were out there, then you know it's pretty hard to beat the factory bikes. Although Marty Moats did it at Carlsbad at a World USGP there in Carlsbad that one year he won on a production bike. So I don't know. I think they're fine now, but there's a lot of money in those works bikes that the manufacturers, you know, put into to build to build up the production bikes the following years. Again, I think the production rule is probably better for the privateer.
Okay. And now it seems as if the privateers are potentially on their way out with, you've got these new compound and supercross futures, which are kind of invite only. And so a typical guy off the local scene, it's going to be hard for him to get invited to these kind of things. And basically the invites are all essentially factory amateur riders here. So it feels as if maybe at some point we may go back to maybe having like unlimited works machines again on the elite level, which I think wouldn't be too bad because it kind of centers around innovation. And so people are going to be trying to beat each other. And so they're not going to be as locked down. Somebody will come up with something that's crazy. And then it'll somewhat get banned and then it'll go to the next teams here. But hypothetically, how much did a stock 250 Honda cost? And then how much do you think your factory 250 Honda cost? What was the discrepancy there? If you just had to like guesstimate.
Production, probably $2,500 for a 250, and a works bike probably 50,000.
Wow. Holy cow. Wow. That's a huge difference. Yeah, no, that's like 50 times. No, that's 100 times more. Because now it's almost around like a motorcycle here to somewhat be competitive is 10, 15, and then right around 200 or so is, yeah, maybe it's about the same there. Huh. Interesting. Well, no, I wanted to put this on here so that the viewers can see. I should have had this already on here. Dun, dun, dun. So Donnie, what was it like? Who was your biggest competition? Because you were beating guys like Johnny O'Mara, Rick Johnson, David Bailey, Mark Barnett. You know, who was your biggest competition during your prime? If you're still with me.
There's so many of us. Everyone from the Barnetts, Mark Barnett, to Bob Hanna, to Mike Bell, Johnny O'Mara, Jeff Ward, Ricky Johnson. On any given day, you know, I was dicing with those guys, any of those guys. So, you know, I beat out Mark Barnett in the Supercross. I took the one plate from him. He was the toughest, you know, only because I had to take the number one plate away from him. So I was focused on beating Mark, which, you know, that was a tough one. And the other one was Ricky Johnson in the outdoors.
Okay, just looking at your results here, Donnie, because a lot of you guys were going back and forth, because once you got the factory deal, you were a solid third, you had some eights, then win, and then a sixth, then second, then fourth and second. You know, it looked like you guys were just going back and forths, where nowadays it's usually just one guy that is dominating everything, and you know, Jet Lawrence would be that guy. So how did you get a competitive advantage against your peers when you guys were going back and forth every weekend, when there was literally 8 guys that could win?
Well, it's a combination of you know, several things. One is surrounding myself around good people. 2, good equipment. 3, working my butt off to be the best that I can be. And in my mind, building my mind up strong. You know, after the first and second year on the circuit, knowing the tracks, knowing my competition, how fast they go, you know, I was strong enough to go out there and beat them. What it takes to beat these individuals, you know, some of the best out there. You know, I learned. Johnny O'Mara lived with me. We teamed up 1981, my second year on the circuit on Honda, and that was Johnny's first year. So we both came from the valley, living with our parents. I bought my first house, and Johnny rented a room for me his first year. So we pushed each other. We trained together, whether it's on the bike or off the bike. We pushed and got stronger physically, mentally. Learned to eat good. We had a trainer through Honda, Jeff Spencer, that helped the race team, helped us individually get stronger. So, like I said, having good people around you, the Dave Arnolds, the Roger DeCoster, that Brian Lunas was my mechanic. Good people around, good equipment, and good work ethics.
What did training? Sorry, Donnie, I missed the last thing you said there.
That's right. It's you know, just training and pushing through to be able to beat. There were so many of us that were going fast and winning races, unlike what you know, a Jet Lawrence, you know, only one person. You know, there could be a dozen of us, at least half dozen, that can win on any given day.
So what did training look like for you during the week? Because were the races on Saturday? Did you do, because back then, were you guys doing 45-minute motos in 2 of them, or was it 3 of them?
Oh, two 45-minute motos. 40 minutes plus 2 laps. So 10 minutes longer than these days. The last 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes got boring. So the AMA ended up, knocking 10 minutes off. after 30 or 35 minutes, everyone's in place. So things would not change a whole lot for the last 10 to 15 minutes. So that's when they said, okay, we're going to shorten it up, make it more exciting throughout the whole race, throughout the 35 minutes. From what that's how they came up. That's what they came up with is, knocking 10 minutes off the 45-minute motos. But yeah, 45-minute motos.
Well, how did you train for that? I mean, what was the race on Saturday or was it on Sunday?
Sunday. It was on Sundays.
Sunday.
So
what did your week look like?
Okay.
Like with you and Johnny O'Mara living together, did you guys ride on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then fly out Thursday and then race on Sunday? Like what break it down for me, Donnie, if you can.
We would race on Sunday, fly home either Sunday or Monday. So Monday's a rest day. Start training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, fly out. Saturday, press day. Race on Sunday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, back then we ran a lot. In the earlier days, I had an injury with my knee, and I couldn't bend it all the way. So I had a hard time riding bicycles. So I never rode bicycles like the guys do now. But Johnny and I, we ran a lot. We usually ran 5 miles a day, and push each other. Try to do it better each time you go out and run. Try to better your times. So between that and going to the gym a little bit, a couple times a week, working the gym and working on reps, lighter weights, reps, not bulk. Rode 2, 3 45-minute motos at a time each day. Usually a couple twice, 2 4. Go out and practice, warm up, play around a little bit on sections of the track, but put in a couple 45-minute motos at each practice session. A little bit of hacky sack during the week, working on the balance, and anyways, I think that was mainly it. That was mainly it. Running and riding is what we did.
Did you do those back to back? So you'd go do 3 45-minute motos and then you'd go run 5 miles afterwards?
Yeah. Or vice versa. Run and do motos. But that was back then. I mean, that was back then. If I was to do it today, or when I teach my riders, is have you do your motos first while you're fresh, and then after you're done at the track, then go do your training off the bike.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of volume still, Donnie, because that's, what is that? That's 2.5 hours of riding hard, and then that's another 30 minutes at least on running. So you were doing 3 hours of training, 3 days a week or so before you would go race on the Sunday.
Yep. And then you fly out on Friday. That's a rest day. I mean, you need your rest days. It's as important as your training. As you know, Johnny, you gotta mix the rest days with the good training.
Mm-hmm.
So when we train, we we give it 100% and do what we have to do to physically and mentally be stronger. Because again, we're out there racing some of the best riders in the world for 45 minutes at a time. So yeah, yeah.
Do you mind telling me when you were in the best shape, when you were a factory rider, how much did you weigh?
150.
150. Okay. And were those bikes still around 220 or so without gas in them?
I think that might have been lighter. I think there was a lighter weight limit, but I don't remember for sure.
Okay, because again, it was like the works bikes there. So I'm guessing the stock bikes were probably 20, 30 pounds heavier than your guys' factory bikes, right?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably. Probably.
Yeah, the production bike I did not like. It wasn't even close. So eventually I got a works bike, one of my older works bikes as a practice bike. And, practice on what you're racing. Makes sense to me. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, I just wish I never got any of my championship bikes. I didn't know that was even possible, so it wasn't in my contract. So, the year I won my two championships in '82, the same year, I never got that bike. That would have been, and then I see some of these other guys that have my bike. Some of the Europeans, and now I come to find out Jeff Ward, he's got some of his championship bikes, and I'm a little disappointed I was never able to get either one of my bikes because my racing career was short. 1980, my first year, 1982 was my last year. And during those 3 years, 80, 81, 82, I won 3 championships for Honda. And I never got any of the bikes, counting the trophy of motocross decisions being one, and then my 2 national titles, national and supercross, the following year, '82.
Did you have a agent that helped you with the contracts, or did you just do it
No,
yourself?
yeah, we did it ourselves.
Okay. Because nowadays there is a lot of agents involved, and sometimes it brings a bunch of politics that's going. And talking with some of the road race champions here in America, what they told me is the champion, Josh Herron, he said that he uses Chat GBT when he gets a contract in. He then throws it into Chat GBT and has AI decide, hey, what should I be concerned about and what else could I negotiate on? And so I thought that was interesting, as opposed to having a agent, he's using AI, which is
Huh.
gnarly.
Yeah, I never heard that, but yeah, we didn't. No, we didn't have no agents back then.
Okay. One of the things, this is a little bit off topic here, but it seemed like you grew up in the era where having good looking women in ads was like a thing. And nowadays, that's not a thing anymore. It's like we're trying to be a PG sport. And so it seems as if motocross was a little bit more fun back then, Donnie. So tell me a little bit about how it was, because you guys had cigarette sponsors, you guys had alcohol sponsors,
Oh no, no,
so
we didn't. No cigarettes, no alcohol.
knowing who you are, you're yanking my chain here. Are you yanking my chain? I mean, because was there not in '82? Was there not? Because maybe that was like the '90s with Budweiser with Jeremy McGrath. Maybe that was it. But
Yeah, yeah, Jeremy with Budweiser, but Camel Cigarettes was a sponsor of Short Track, or was it motocross? It wasn't. Our sponsor was Wrangler. There was no cigarette sponsor, no alcohol sponsor. And then the girl ad, that was a fun thing that we did that Answer Products, Eddie Cole and Answer Products, Eddie owned Answer, and it was a fun thing that he did on me after I retired. So it must have been I think that was 83. I was done in 82 because of the injury, and then 83 he did this with me, and that was a Playmate, a centerfold, a Playboy centerfold. I don't remember her name, but yeah, it was a fun thing that Eddie did with me and Answer Products.
Well, I'm sure I mean, you don't see that stuff nowadays. So it's nice to have a little bit of backstory towards what happened. With Supercross, was it just 20 laps? Because motocross was 45 minutes. Was Supercross 20 minutes, or was it 20 laps? Like, what was it?
Yeah, 20 laps. I lost you, but yes, I heard you. I heard you ask me if it's 20 laps. It was 20 laps, the same as now. The lap times were a little bit longer, a little over a minute long. But yes, 20 laps.
Gotcha. How was qualifying? Was it something where it was just the 20 factory guys, or was there qualifying the day of? Like, how did that work? Just honestly, just interested.
Um, yeah, everyone had to qualify. Everyone had to qualify. You had qualifiers. You had a semi if you didn't qualify, and then you had the last chance, and then the main event. So
Okay, so
yeah,
it was the same.
everyone qualified for a gate position and to get into the event like you do now.
What do you think of the metal starting gates now versus back in the day when it was just dirt on dirt? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Uh, I really don't care. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
same for everyone. Same for everyone. So I don't know. I never started on one, so I don't know anything about them really. I've worked with riders on them, but yeah, it's the same for everyone. So whether it's on the gate or on dirt,
Okay.
I don't
Ha-
know.
were there any nationals that had concrete gates to them, or was
Yeah,
that all dirt too?
no, yeah. Southwick was actually, from what I remember, was blacktop.
Blacktop. Wow.
Yeah. So you had some good track, some pretty good traction there. But yeah, there was tracks that was plenty of tracks that had cement.
When it came to tire selection, did you guys have Works tires that nobody could buy?
No, no, they're the same tires. From what I remember, they were the same tires.
Okay.
Dunlop's been around for a long time, and we were Honda, and each rider we were on Dunlops.
And Donnie, unfortunately, you did have a short career. Was it 79 to 83, or how long?
80 to 82.
Okay.
80,
So,
82. So the first year, I was learning the tracks as well as how fast these riders were on these tracks. I didn't. I injured my ankle on the outdoors. I finished 8th in the premier class in Supercross, and I didn't finish the outdoors. But the ones that I did, I placed, I placed, all right, pretty good, I guess. Good enough where Honda rehired me because the first year I signed for 1 year, and then after the first year, then Honda signed me for the second year. So the second year, I finished 6th in the premier class, and I was still learning the tracks on the outdoors. So I didn't finish them all, because I injured my ankle the first year. But I still did well enough where I finished third behind Howerton and Hannah. I was a distant third, but yes, I finished third in that. So I finished out. And raced off tracks. I know how fast the riders are now. So going into my third year in '82, I got stronger physically, mentally. Johnny and I pushing each other, getting ready
How
for
old
the
were you in
outdoors.
'82, Donnie?
I was 22 at the beginning. I turned 23 in March.
Okay.
So in
Sorry,
January, I
I
was 20.
interrupted you. I just wanted
And
to
then,
continue on.
so so training, getting ready, testing and training, testing with Honda and Brian Lunas, my mechanic, coming on our weekends off from the nationals. We would go race locally just to stay competitive. So as it turned out, the first race being Anaheim, I won. Jeff Ward and I diced a little bit during that moto, but I eventually stretched it out and I won the first race. The second and third race was at in Seattle, where I won the second race. And as I'm winning, I'm getting stronger mentally. The third race was the second night in Seattle, where I tightened up because I had the points lead, obviously after the first two rounds of winning, and I finished sixth, and that was the worst race of that season, sixth place. That race and my last race were, the last race at LA Coliseum was the other bad race where I can win the series at that event, which was the second to last race, and I just had to beat out Mark Barnett. So, anyways, yeah, the third race I finished sixth, which was one of the worst events. But then we got back on track, and I did better. I don't remember where it was or how I did, but it was up there around, somewhere between second and or between first and
Yeah, so
fourth place.
you finished second in Atlanta. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. I think I won 4 races that year, and that was Anaheim, Seattle, and then where does it say the two races together in the same weekend?
Pontiac?
Michigan. Yeah, I won that. That was a doubleheader, and I won both events there. So I ended up winning the series premature, one race premature on the 11th round of the 12-round series. And then there was a big break from before the last race in the Supercross series. And that's when I went back to Europe and raced the last 250 World Championship in Vimmerby, Sweden. And I won both motos there. And Laporte championship. And then getting ready for those nations, because we won it the year before in '81, is when I got hurt. And that forced me to retire. And then they flew in David Bailey to take my place, and which we won that year, the second year. '81 were me and my teammates, Johnny O'Mara, Danny Laporte, and Chuck Sun. We won for the first time for the U.S.
So was there 4 riders back then for that mix of nations?
Yeah, it was 4 riders, and the worst rider, they threw that score out. So it ended up being 3 riders. They had 4 riders and threw out the worst. So the best 3 riders of the weekend was your score. So So back then, we rode the first weekend. It was different. It was different. Everyone from around the world representing your country rode 250s. So there was four of us on a team representing your country, and we went to Lommel, Belgium, probably one of the roughest tracks in the world, and we beat the Europeans on their turf. Then the next weekend, we went to another country, which was Belstein, Germany, and everyone rode 500s. And
Wow.
we won. We beat the Europeans on their turf there in Germany again. So that was the first. So we had to ride two different weekends, unlike nowadays. You race one track somewhere around the world to come up with your score. So we
Yeah,
won.
interesting.
We won both weekends. 250s the first weekend, 500s the second weekend.
So who was the guy that dropped the score?
If I remember, shoot, who was? I think Chuck's son, because he was riding injured ankle.
Hmm.
So I want to say Chuck.
So that seems like a lot of financial responsibility to bring 250s and 500s to
Yeah,
overseas.
yeah. Well, you know what? I don't remember if we rode the European bikes. Oh, I think we took over our bikes. I think we took over our bikes and rode on own bikes. Otherwise, I was going to say, we took over our parts and rode the European bikes. The factory Honda over there in Europe. But I think we did take over our own bikes. Yes,
Hmm.
it is. It's a big, big responsibility from the manufacturer.
Wild. So what was it like riding a 500?
A handful. So
Yeah.
the again, I mean, that first moto, I didn't get the greatest start. I think I came from like 10th place, and I worked my way through, and I finished second. Finished second behind Håkan Carquist, who I believe was world champion that year. In between motos, it started drizzling, it started raining a little bit, and that track was hard packed, and it got real greasy. So, from what I remember, just trying to keep it on two wheels and finish up there. I finished, I think, around ninth or 10th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So,
wild.
and Johnny and Danny Laporte, we had the lowest score. We did it. We did it again. Over there in Germany on the 500s. We we beat the world champions. So that was kind of when America, the U.S. riders started, making a name for themselves, as some of the best riders in the world now, because because of Supercross. We had Supercross before the Europeans did. So all the riding and the technical riding it takes to ride Supercross made us better, made a better rider out of us.
Okay, this is sort of a silly question, but how did you guys change the motorcycles up differently for Supercross than motocross back in the early 80s?
Well, obviously your suspension, it's going to stiffen up the suspension for the bigger jumps, more compression dampening, uh, less rebound dampening. Uh, our gas tanks, we had a smaller tank, we had a bigger tank. 45-minute motors, you need a bigger tank versus 20 laps in Supercross. So two different tanks. Um, exhaust pipes, exhaust pipes were different from outdoors to indoors. And I think that was it mainly. I think those were the main things that were different from outdoors to indoors.
Did you guys have like a Honda test track that you guys built a Supercross track for, or was that not a thing back then?
No, after I was done, they built it. Honda bought some property out in Simi Valley where I was raised growing up, and then they built a Supercross track. Now, back in our day, we had to go to local tracks, or what we do is go up in the hills and make our own track.
Crazy.
Johnny and I would go up in the hills, we'll make our own tracks, or somebody. I remember Eric Keto, up in the hills by his house, that he had a track or a couple tracks that we would go and ride on.
So things just seemed simpler back in those days. Donnie,
Yeah,
so what actually happened? Sorry, it might be the little delay here. What actually happened for why your career ended? What injury was it, and how did it happen, and what made you decide to hang up the boots, essentially?
well, we were practicing in Europe, getting ready for the trophy and designations. Okay, I won in Vimmerby, Sweden, the last 250 World Championship event, GP over there, and a couple days later, we're training in Rolf Diffenbach's track in Germany. Get ready, just doing our thing. The team's out there, and there's a section on this. The following year, Magoo's a member, myself, O'Mara. I don't remember all the guys, but so I'm out there practicing and putting in some laps. Magoo gets out there, and by the time he comes out there, I'm just kind of slowing down, going around the track, and I come up to this double. I think it was a double. Either a double or a triple jump. I don't know what it was. Probably a double jump, which I was going slower, but I thought I was going to be able to do it, no problem. And it didn't go as planned. It ejected me. It had injected me off the bike, and I landed on my head. So I had a bad concussion, and that. So I tried to come back. I was willing to come back after, for next year, but I lost all my timing. I lost my depth reception. Everything you need out there on a track, or especially on a Supercross track, you need your depth reception, clean jumps, and it wasn't working out. So I said, I'm done.
And you were what, 23, 24?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it must have been at that time 24.
And
yeah, it was a short career, but I accomplished a lot in that short period of time. That I was fine. I was fine with hanging up the boots. And a year later, I started training riders. Started training around the world, around the country, outside the country, different places around the world: Hawaii, Mexico, New Zealand, just to name a few, and many, many, many different states within the country: East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. Spent 40 years training riders, such as yourself, Johnny.
yeah,
3 years,
no, I know. You were a huge influence on me, for sure.
3 years
Donnie,
racing professionally, 40 years of training riders.
yeah. Do you ever look back and think things were different? Like, because you just came off of winning, being the guy to beat, basically. MX of Nations, Supercross, and Motocross. And then the next year, everyone kind of had a freebie because you were out, you were tired, you know? So do you ever look back and be like, dang it, you know, I wish things were a little different, or does that not go through your mind at all?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, it would have been good to go out there and represent Honda with the #1 plates the following year on both outdoors as well as the indoors, and see what I can, how many championships I can I can win. How many can I bring home? How many wins can I bring home? It's always a thought. Um, but during my time in '82, you know, I I felt good. I felt strong mentally and physically, and was finishing at the top. You know, usually top three places. So I would have liked to seen how long that can last for and how much, and yeah, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen that way. So I was satisfied. I was satisfied otherwise.
Yeah, you guys just, talking to like you and my dad, and it just, you guys are just so hardcore with just moving on. Like today's generation, I would say my millennials, we're just a little bit more gushy and emotional. You guys are rough around the edges, but just tough as nails. It's just a different time of growing up, I would say. So fast forwarding just a little bit, was your wife Becky with you at the time, or did you meet her after you retired?
Yeah, Beck and I got together after the racing days, and at the start of my training riders doing school, and so we were a team doing the motocross schools. She did everything behind closed doors, and I was in the field working with riders. But
And then when you had Josh, was it always did you know you wanted him to race dirt bikes, or how did that transpire?
no, I didn't. We're just getting to ride just to have fun. I wasn't looking to uh, building anything serious. Just to start off and just go have some fun. And if he wanted to do something, if he wanted to take it further and uh, try to become something, then then we worked at it together, and he had to learn that he had to work at it to uh, become the best you can be. But that became later on. At first, it was just, here, kid, get on this bike and buy him a used bike, buy him a used PW50, and go have fun, and then buy him a used 60, and then Yamaha backed me at the beginning of the training with a bunch of bikes, including 80s. So he ride the 80s, and then before he got on the 125 that were backed by Yamaha and for the motocross schools. I get riders from all over the world, from different parts of the world, that come to me wherever I'm living, which was either at the time, well, it was mostly here in Colorado. They come live with us, Becky and I, and Josh, and they would. I had bikes. I had bikes for these riders that come from overseas or out of state. They'd have bikes, and then did the schooling, and did our thing, and 40 years.
Yeah, because I remember being on a little PW50, and the first school that I went to with you, and Josh was just incredibly fast on the little YZ85. And, I kind of looked up to you and Josh ever since.
Josh he got to a point where now he's going good enough where he's demonstrating for the class. Me teaching him, through the beginning years, he learned, and I used him. He was the demonstrator.
Mm-hmm.
So where it kind of started.
Yeah, crazy, just full circle, and then you guys were pretty much the first father and son that were both pro that were winning races, which is pretty cool. Because now the most notable ones that they have is Brian Deegan and little Hayden Deegan, where Brian, he has his one Supercross win, and then, Deegan's got his multiple championships.
Yeah. Bailey was another one. David and Gary Bailey. That back closer to my time. And yeah, I think you're right. I think we were probably around the first father-son thing, and as Josh got better, I was pretty excited about that. Him and I are father-son thing that we won on races, and now what about a championship? And he came close twice. One time on the Red Bull KTM, he came close. He tied for a championship with Grant Langston, but Grant had more wins than him, so Grant won the championship. But he tied in points, so that was close. And another time when I rode for Mitch Payton on Pro Circuit Kawasaki, and I just knew he was going to win. He was winning. He was winner of the whole series between Brock Tickle, his teammate, and Eli Tomac on the Connection Honda. And he got off at one of the West Coast races during practice and knocked himself out and broke his hand.
Mm-hmm.
That put a dampener on everything, but he ended up third in the series, and behind Tickle won. Eli finished second in that series, but he finished third. Yeah, so he didn't win a championship, and AMA pro ranks, but he won some events.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he always had a just incredible style for Supercross. Was there a reason why Josh never really raced moto, Donnie? He just liked Supercross, or what was the reasoning behind that?
He had a hard time of training like he needed to. Like I was trying to get him to do, but he, for instance, he paid for trainers, but he's telling the trainers what he needed to do instead of listening to the trainer what he could do. He didn't have the work ethic. So getting back to, he wasn't strong enough. He couldn't do as well on the outdoors. Supercross was easy. He was a good Supercross rider, good style, and it was easier for him on the training that he did do. Wasn't a whole lot, but doing a little bit of track training on the track, and that he did. But he was a good enough rider where he could do as good as he did in Supercross. But just like I told him, I go, if you'd work at it, you could be a multi-time champion easily. You're a better rider than everyone else. But he didn't have the work ethic, so it didn't materialize.
Yeah, you know, that's a little bit like Travis Pastrana with his whole deal. Is he said the same thing. He was like, dude, I don't enjoy the training. You know, there's just too much involved for that stuff. And that was another guy that was clearly had better skill set than the majority of the field. So I want your honest opinion on Hayden Deegan right now, Donnie. Him being a little kid. I mean, he's 19, so he's not really a little kid. But do you think he is the next just champion? Do you think he's going to be a Ricky Carmichael, or your honest opinion on the little shit?
I mean, yeah, he can be. It just, it just depends on how things go for him. And, if he can keep from getting seriously injured, he has a good chance. He has a good chance. I think it's going to be something to see if he has what it takes to beat Jet. We'll have to see. Jet is unreal. Jet's unreal. That he's young. 21. I think he's still 21, isn't he?
I think he's 21, 22.
That
yeah.
he can. That he, we'll see what Hayden can do against Jet, and I don't think he wants to be too cocky. He doesn't want to be too cocky right now. He's got to be humble and go out there and see what he has for Jet.
So you're saying Deegan has to be more humble right now. He can't be too cocky is what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because he's pretty good at being somewhat cocky, especially in the 250 class.
Yeah, I don't like that. Hey, real quick, I got a low battery, so my phone's gonna die before too long.
Okay. Well, I told you we were gonna let you go here right at about an hour, Donnie. So, I guess that's a good segue.
I like that on a rider, and that and Hayden. I don't care how fast you are. You got to be you got to be humble. You got to be humble because at some point someone's going to kick his ass, and it could be Jet, could be Hunter. We'll see. Aaron Plessinger. We'll see.
So how do you think he's going to go into the 450 class? Do you think he's going to be instantly a front runner, or do you think it's going to take him a season to get going to be able to be in the same straightaway as Jet?
Oh, I think he'll be a runner up there somewhere towards the front, and then he can build from there. But he's got to stay healthy. You got to stay healthy. He's got to be smart. Jet's probably the best, in the world. He's probably the best. So Hayden knows that. So he's gotta be a little bit humble and be smart about it, and go out there and ride smart, and we'll see what he can do.
But honestly, do you think he's going to beat Jet or no? Just a straight up putting you on the spot, Donnie.
I don't know.
Yes or no?
I think he can, but I don't know. Jet's smart. He's a smart, humble kid, and I like that.
Okay.
Both Lawrences are good kids.
Well, okay. So hypothetically, for Deegan to potentially beat Jet? Do you think he needs to play those mental games that he plays with the entire 250 class to get inside their head to kind of force them to make a mistake?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what he can try, but trying that with Jet, I don't know. I don't think that's gonna necessarily scare Jet. You know, he's
Okay.
gonna outsmart him. I think Jet will outsmart him, and yeah, it's gonna take a lot for Hayden to beat Jet.
Okay. Because Jet's already starting to mock Deegan a little bit with his wins, which I find pretty funny because it's now with social media. Like, I wish social media was as big as it is now when your kid was in his prime, because Josh would have made the sport so much more entertaining, just with his personality. But there seems to be some sort of a change where you see Deegan rides a lot like Tomac, where he's very aggressive on the bike. He's high RPMs,
Who's
forcing the
who?
say again.
Just said?
Deegan.
Huh? Deegan.
Yeah, Deegan
Okay.
is very aggressive, rides the bike wide open, high RPMs, and the bikes tend to blow up. His bike is blown up this year. Tomac's bike is blown up this year, and Jet rides low or high gears, low RPM, and has more of a roll speed to him. What are your thoughts being as technical as you are as a riding coach?
Well, I like what I see from Jet. I like what I see from Jet, and Hayden is making it work on the 250s. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes on the 450s when he gets there. But he's got a lot to prove to be able to beat Jet. I was impressed with Jet when he first came over and rode the 250s. How fast he was back then, being so young from the get go. Yeah, it's gonna take a lot from Hayden, and he better watch his mouth right now until he starts beating them.
Do you think he's going to have to change his riding style on the 450?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, Donnie, we've got some new manufacturers here in the States with Triumph and Ducati. Do you think Ducati or Triumph have any chance of becoming a top tier manufacturer here in the States? Ducati's going to release their bike next year and start racing. It's more than likely probably going to race motocross next year as a full factory. I don't know if it's going to be, well, they should full blown go Supercross because they're in MXGP. So just assuming that they are going to race a full season, how well do you think that bike is without the rider?
Ducati, we don't know yet. Triumph's already proven. We haven't seen the 450 yet, but the 250 they've proven they can win. They've won races. So I'm sure that the 450 will be similar, and I think they'll be fine. Ducati, we won't know until, and we've only got one race done right now, and it wasn't the best. But with Caroli testing, I'm sure, and managing that race team, I'm sure they're going to be good. But we'll see once they come out.
I know I built a bike online, and for all their little pieces and parts, it was $22,000 to have that Ducati 450, which is almost double what you can get either a Triumph or Honda or whatever for. Do you think that's just too expensive for a stock motorcycle?
22,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, too expensive for my taste.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely going to be a vet bike for sure. But hey, Donnie, before your phone dies, I will let you either go get another cup of coffee or spend the morning with your wife. And hey, it's always been a pleasure. You know, you've been very influential in my life. You know, we've spoken a bunch on sensitive issues with stuff, and so I appreciate you always being a mentor for me, and also just being a good friend and also trainer. You know, so thank you for everything you've done for me.
Well, thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that. And yes. Well, so we're not training. We're not riding anymore between the both of us. So we can sit and go have a beer somewhere.
Yeah. We definitely should for sure. And I need to show you my family now because you know I got a little boy on the way. He's due in September. My little girl uh is 4 years old. Real quick, Lennox, come here. Come
Well,
here real quick.
congratulations to you and Paige, and that's great.
Yeah. So I know we're live and everything, but it's my little girl.
Hi, sweetheart. How you doing, honey?
And you know she's up now, so I need to go make waffles and everything too. So hey, Donnie, I appreciate you. And hey, everybody, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. And thanks, Donnie, for coming on board. As always, keep it WFO.